When I was speaking yesterday, we're doing today Daf Nugim Amud Aleph. When I was speaking about a story that Rabbi cut down trees on Shemitah, we're asking why. So Masechta was we said before that the reason why he cut down trees is because it wasn't grown enough to be a fruit. Well, we brought down a Tana, a Mishnah. We said that that even fruit which are tiny, very, very small, still counted as fruits. If tiny fruit are still counted as fruit, why did Rabbi cut down the fruit? So we're going to start today in Gimel Amud Aleph, Man Shram. I think we stopped yesterday. 4 lines from the top of the Gimel Amud Aleph. Says the Gemara, Man Shram in Smadalei. Who is the time that says that grapes that became very small counted as a fruit? Is who does that go according to? That goes according to Rabbi. Tani, and they themselves said, other trees, any other tree, let's say the apple trees, even a tiny fruit is counted as a fruit. Now, even if a tiny fruit is counted as a fruit, then how can Rabbi cut down the trees? Answers the Gemara, Rabbi cut down dates of a male date tree, meaning he cut down from a certain types of dates which are a certain tree which is a male tree, and it's and that was the knufia that we said yesterday that he cut down. And these the chiddush of male trees that they don't grow, they never get ripe. So since they never get ripe, so they are never counted as a since they never get ripe, they're never counted as since they never get ripe, they're never counted as fruit, and that's why it's mutter. Okay, so we're starting a new piece over here. Tanan Rabban. Nugim Amud Aleph, Tanan Rabban, third from the top. Tanan Rabban learn the brayso. Eichlim ba'novim at sheyichlu daliyah shel eichel. You're able to eat grapes. Again, speaking about the rules of eating fruits on Shemitah. They're able to eat grapes on Shemitah as long as at sheyichlu daliyah shel eichel. Until the grapes in eichel is a place where a lot of grapes came from. So we go after the place of eichel. And when the grapes in eichel are finished, that's when you have to stop eating grapes, even though you don't live in eichel. But the imyash mucharis me, and that's in general. More specific, if there are other places that still have grapes, that's still selling grapes from the fields, then you're able to carry on eating grapes. So l'chatchila, you have to go after the central place, which is eichel. But more in general, more specific, if there's more, if eichel is finished, and let's say the next neighborhood still has grapes, you're able to continue eating grapes. Regarding olives, you're able to eat olives until the last olives in Tkaya are finished. Tkaya is again, it's a place where they grew a lot of olives, and that's why you have to go after Tkaya. Tekoa nowadays, what we counted as the central place regarding the rules of Shemitah, not eating olives. Blazer says, he says another place. We don't go after Tkaya. Argues and he says. We go after the place called Gush Chalav. That when the place Gush Chalav finishes olives, that's when we have to stop eating olives. Why Gush Chalav? Because enough that it has to be, all the olives have to be finished, so much so that if a poor man would go to this place Gush Chalav and you look for grapes, if you look for olives, you wouldn't find no grapes on the trees, not even around the trees, because it's completely finished. Enough of a Reva is a quarter of a kav. So if he goes to base Gush Chalav and he brings a measurement of a Reva and he cannot fill his measurement up, it means all the olives are finished, and therefore he has to stop eating olives. Regarding the rules of eating figs is until the figs in Beis Hini are finished. Beis Hini again was a place. Beis Hini was a place that they grew figs, and that's why we go at the central place. We go after Beis Hini. Amar Rabbi Yehuda said, the argues and says no. We only mentioned the place of Beis Hini regarding the rules of Maisa, because we learned that now. We learned in the Mishnah. Page Beis Hini v'hini tuvyana. If you have figs that grew in Beis Hini, or you have figs that grew in a place called Tuvyana, So Rabbi Eliezer Yehuda says that only regarding Meiser did we ever mention that did the Tanoim ever mention this place of Beisini. Regarding the rules of Shvius, of Shemitah, they never mentioned this place. Since we never heard anyone mention this place, that we go after this place. So he argues and said that we do not go after this place regarding the figs. The Brisa continues, be able to eat dates at Sheichlo, until the last date in Tseir is finished. The Shimon Gamliel says, Eichlin al Shalbein Hakipin, he says, in this place, Gufa, in this place of Tseir, if there's still dates inside on the tree, meaning on the leaves of the date tree, of that palm tree, then you're able to eat. But if there's still dates left, but it's not on the actual tree, it's inside the thorns, since these thorns is not edible, makes the dates unedible, and therefore, even though they still have dates in the field, but it's counted as if the dates are finished already, therefore you have to stop eating grapes. So we have all these different cases. Each place went after the central place where they sold that thing. Figs went after this thing. Dates after when this city. That's when you have to stop eating each fruit according to his place. The Gemara asks, Rabbeinu, I can ask a contradiction. We can ask a question. We have a brisa that says, grapes you're able to eat until Pesach. For olives, until Shavuos. Back regardless for figs at the Chanukah. Bit marim when it comes to dates, at the purim, be able to eat until purim. Would switch around the last two things, meaning that by figs until purim and by dates until Chanukah. What do we see from here? We see that we just had a brisa before that said that if you want to eat olives, you have to rely on a place, this and this place. If you want to eat grapes, you have to rely on this and this place. We have a brisa that says that we don't have to rely on different places. We go after time. We don't have to place. We don't have to places. For grapes, the brisa says you can eat until Pesach. For olives, you can eat until Shavuos. So how does this fit together with other brisa that says that we go after the place or the central place that they grow these things? Answers the Gemara, a very simple answer. Both things are the same, meaning that the reason why Chacham said you're able to eat grapes until Pesach is because until that's how long it takes for the grapes in, which place was it? For the grapes in Dalyes, in Eichel, to finish. So Chacham or Mashar, how long does it take instead of everyone going to check in Eichel and see when all the grapes start disappearing from the fields? So Chacham made a general shear and said until Pesach you're able to eat grapes. And for olives, it takes a bit longer for people to collect them from the field, so you can eat until Shavuos, etc. Another answer, everybody say another answer. Haktani behead, we learned specifically in that brisa. We said specifically in that brisa that which we mentioned, all these central places for regarding eating fruit and Shemitah isn't a final decision. It's if there are other places that have later than that, then we're still able to eat. So that's why the brisa says. So the brisa says you can eat until Pesach. Is speaking about that we know specifically that there's more towns that still have grapes, and that's why you're able to eat until Pesach. So there's no contradiction between the brisa. Either it's the same shear, or that the brisa itself said there's two situations where you have to stop eating grapes. Either the central place is finished, or there's a later place, a later village that still has fruit, and that's why the brisa said you can eat until Pesach, because it's speaking about a case that we know there's another village that still has fruit, and that's why we said until Pesach, because we estimate that village will be finished until Pesach. Now we're going to a whole new piece, nothing to do with Shemitah. We're writing a brisa like this: Siman laharim milin. If you want to recognize a place that has mountains or good mountains, how do you know if it has good mountains? Is if it has walnut trees. So they grow very nicely on hills, and that's why we're going to see soon why we're telling you all this. But a good mountains would have walnut trees. Similar makim kolim. If you want to know where a good valley is where it has palm trees. Similar nachalim. If you want to know where's a good nachal, a good spring or a good river, kolim, there has to be reeds there. Similar shvela. If you want to know where's a good park or a good empty space of land, shikma is if it has a tree called shikma. I think it's another type of nut. Even though there's no proof in the Torah. It doesn't say anywhere in the Torah that in order to find a good place of land, it has to have shikma there, but there's a remembrance in the pasuk. There's a hint for it in the pasuk. It says in the pasuk, says that in the Malachim that the king put money in Yerushalayim, and he put cedarwood trees, just like he gave a lot of cedarwood trees to Yerushalayim, and the mashal for that is just like a big plant has a lot of shikma trees. So we see a reference in pasuk that a good healthy plain of land has a lot of golnut. I think it's different types of nuts. That's so mountains. A sign for mountains is golnuts, and a sign for valleys is palm trees, etc. Ask the Gemara, similar milim. Why do we need to know all these things? Why do we need to know that a sign for good mountains, a good hills, healthy hills, is having a golnut trees, and a sign for having healthy healthy valleys is palm trees? What's in again? Says the Gemara, nafkamina lebikurim. It's negera din for bikurim. We know bikurim has to be brought from the best fruit. Like it says, we want to bring bikurim from shiv saminim. And it continues saying we do not bring fruit bikurim from palm trees in mountains. Now we just said before that in mountains you don't usually have palm trees, you have golden trees. If you have a mountain with palm trees, it's not a healthy mountain, and therefore the palm trees aren't going to be healthy either. And that's why you shouldn't bring bikurim from these dates, because it's not a healthy, it's not a mushabachim, it's not a nice. They're not going to be nice dates. Let me perish. So if you have fruit growing in a valley, you shouldn't bring bikurim from there, because fruit doesn't usually go in a valley. Usually you have dates, palm trees growing in a valley, not fruit. Similar and chalim. So why do we tell us that if you want a simon for a nice river, it has to have reeds? What's in the Gera din? And so the Gemara nafkamina the nachal esan is regarding the din of nachal esan. We know this thing called egla rufa. Egla rufa is if there was someone found, we don't know which city, and we don't know who killed him, then the chacham have to do a whole procedure. They have to cut off the back of the back of an animal, and they have to do it by a spring, by a river. Which type of river? So it has to be a river which is a healthy river. What's a healthy river? That's where the Brisa tells you it has to have reeds over there. Continues the Gemara saying similar shvela shikma. If you want to know where's a good plain of land, a good park, it has to have a shikma there. Why does it tell us? Nafkamina is to tell us to tell us for business. If someone wants to buy a nice plot of land, and you told him this is the plot of land, and when he came there, he saw there's no shikma trees, so he wants to give it back. And the other guy says, no. The seller says, what do you mean? I don't have to tell you there's no shikma trees. He says, you do, because a regular plain of land has nice shikma trees, and you should have told me there's no shikma trees. So that's what's the again. Because to get to business, we have to know if a good field has to have shikma trees, and you tell me you're selling me a good field, and it has to have shikma trees. Says the Gemara, now that we anyway mentioned this nafkamina, called nafkamina, we mentioned that for business, there's a nafkamina between all these things to know what a good plot of land grows. So for all the other cases, for mountains and for valleys and for all these things, we can also answer the same answer that for business is to get to know. If someone wants to buy a valley, right? So, and the guy told him it's a good valley. So if it doesn't have palm trees, it's not a good valley, and therefore you give it back straight away. Okay. Now the Gemara goes into, the Mishnah goes further, speaking about different minhagim in different places. Again, this perek called Makom Shenagul. You see about all different types of minhagim in different places. Says the Mishnah in the middle of the Megillah Madal. Makom Shenagul imke behemadaka lanachim, a place that has a minute to sell a behemadaka, like sheep and goats, to a guy. A place that, let's say in London, the minhag is that they sell sheep and goats to a guy. They're able to sell. Makom Shenagul imke, but the place that the minhag is not to sell sheep to a guy. We don't sell. We're going to explain soon what's the significance of selling animals to goyim. But everyone agrees that you cannot sell wild animals to goyim. For example, cattle or horses or donkeys, you cannot sell behemagasa. You cannot sell these things to goyim. So too, agalim musyachim. If you have small calves, shleimim shvurim, decide whether they have if they're complete, meaning they're healthy, or they have a broken limb. So the Yehuda says it's mutter if it has a broken limb. Masechta matter b'sus, and Masechta says that it's mutter to sell a horse to go. We're going to explain this in a second. There's an issur of selling a behema gasa, an animal that works to a guy. The reason for this is because if you're going to sell it to a guy, and the reason for this is just lost the place. Yeah. So you if the reason for this is that these types of animals are made for work. And Chama asked to sell an animal that works to a guy because maybe you're going to lend it out to the guy. If you sell it to the guy, maybe you might end up lending out to the guy, or lending it out or renting out to a guy. If you're going to rent out to a guy, then you just don't own it. And the guy's doing malacha with this animal on Shabbos. And it says in Pasuk, and the animals can't do malacha either. So Chama asked that you can't sell working animals to guy. Now, what if the animal has a broken leg? So it's not going to work anyway. So that's machlekes Rabbi Yehuda and Chacham. Chacham say no. Any animal you can't sell to the guy because the Chacham and the Gzeir, they weren't machalek in the Gzeir. Rabbi Yehuda says no. If the animal's leg is broken, it's not going to work anyway. Therefore, we're not guys, and you might as well sell this animal to a guy. But that everyone holds. The question is if you could sell a cattle, sheep, and sheep animals that don't work, sheep and goats. Can you sell that to a guy? They're not going to work. So that's telling the meaning. Some places that say that it's fine because they're not going to work anyway, so you can sell them to a guy. And some people have a meaning that that even sheep and goats you can't sell to a guy because maybe if you're matter to sell sheep and goats to a guy, you might end up selling other animals to a guy. And therefore, the guys are extra machum not to sell any animals to a guy. And that's what the Mishnah is saying that if you go to that place, you have to keep that in meaning. Another meaning the Mishnah mentions. A place that has a meaning to eat roasted meat on Pesach, on the night of the Seder night, then they are allowed to eat. If the meaning of the place is not to eat on Pesach, why? Because it looks like you bring a korban Pesach outside the Beis Hamikdash, and that's why even nowadays there's a lot of people that say you shouldn't eat roasted meat on Pesach. Then the meaning is you should not eat meat on Pesach. It depends on the meaning. So now the Gemara is going to delve into this idea of eating meat on the night of Pesach. Amar Rabbi Yehuda says the Gemara. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav. Rabbi Yehuda, the son of Rav, said, in the name of Rav, said, a person cannot say, take a piece of meat and say that this meat is for Pesach. Why? Because when someone's going to hear him say this meat is for Pesach, it looks like he's being makdish the animal. Looks like he's sanctifying the animal outside the Beis Hamikdash because he's saying this meat is for Pesach, which means the korban Pesach, and therefore it looks like he's eating a korban outside the Beis Hamikdash, which is a big issue. So because of Marsai, they said the person should not say. It's also for a person to say that this meat is for Pesach. Amar Papa said, when do we ask for you to say this thing is for Pesach? Only regarding meat, because by meat, it's a chash. Someone's going to think that you're being makdish the meat. But if you have wheat, no. If you have wheat, there's no problem with saying this wheat is for Pesach, even though it could be you're being makdish the wheat to redeem the money and buy korban Pesach. No, we're not guys. Why? Because if everyone understands when you say that this wheat is for korban Pesach, you're not being makdish the wheat. You're saying the minta of Pesach coming. You're guarding the wheat for Pesach. You're not being makdish the wheat. You're saying that this wheat is for Pesach as opposed to meat. Meat, people could think that you're being makdish the wheat for korban Pesach. Ask the Gemara, Ubasar, no, you're telling me that you can't say that this meat, regarding meat, you can't say that this is for korban Pesach. How can you say that? Basically, we learned in the Brisa. Amar Ravasi said, Tudus Ishreimi. Tudus, who was the leader of the Jewish nation in Rome, he instituted in Rome that the minig of the Jews in Rome, that they should eat roasted goats on Pesach. So Chacham sent Tudus, and they told him, in Mali Tudus Ata, if you were not Tudus, meaning if you weren't a very great person, because I know Lachon, we would have put you on Chayim a long time ago. Why should you put you on Chayim? Shata Michael as Yisrael, Kachin Machutz, because you're feeding the Jewish people in Rome, Kachin, behemoths which are holy, outside Beis Hamikdash. So the Gemara straight away asked, what does it mean? Kachin Sakadaita, does it say anywhere he told them to be makdish the behemoth? He just told them to eat meat on the night of Pesach. He didn't tell them to be makdish the behemoth. So the Gemara straight away corrects itself and says, they told him that it's similar to feeding the Jews korbanos. Why? Because you tell them to eat meat for members of korban Pesach, and people might think it's actually a korban. And so they told you, if you weren't told us, then we would have put you on Chaim a long time ago. So I'm going to have a question. We'll stop over here and give them with base. The top of the give them with base. We'll continue with a question, with answer, with a question and answer tomorrow. Have a good night.